Oh, no, I can't control it. Sorry, everyone.
That's if you need it. I'll stick it down here.
What is it?
Meow. Watch his turn, Jill.
Yeah.
If you want 'em.
No, that's fine. Oh dear, Glenn, we have a proper player. 45. Hey, you were.
His eyes are going to be there.
Hey, Spurs, Spurs, true and true. Yes.
What?
Yeah, but because of you.
Glenn, you were his favourite player.
I am.
Really?
Yeah, but Gav is a lot of people's favourite player.
Yes, Spurs, we sit together.
Sitting here.
Go on, Spurs.
If he was your favourite player, why did you never score goals like him?
I didn't have his talent.
Because
Did you try, though?
Cares.
You're the same boat as me, didn't
I'll give you these.
We didn't have much talent, did we?
I looked up to you until I met you.
See what I met you.
You're the same age as me, Jim.
You know what?
Scholes is my favourite now.
Right, son, you've got to be...
I'm not the same age. He had his last week on my
To
ear.
be fair, it's a good point that Glenn was the favourite player of a lot of people growing up. Probably because there weren't that many of him either. You think about it.
Yeah.
No, I like Glenn and Robbo.
There were very few, but Robbo was a very different type of player.
Exactly, that's my point.
Brian.
Yeah, I'm saying
Yeah. I think Jamie Redknapp did an interview saying you were his favourite player as well.
Really?
And boy. Is that a shot?
Yeah, but the gaffer looked...
It's a shame I wasn't Bobby Robson.
Ron
Greenwood's, really. That would have been handy.
It's the way you looked in your kit as well, Gav. You looked amazing.
Really?
You were gorgeous.
It's all about the kit, was it?
And the tongues on the boots. It was all about...
You having tea?
Yeah, I'll have a cup of tea.
Technique.
It's all real tea, then.
You can't give him Earl... Glenn, do you like Earl Grey?
That was the problem. Yeah.
Jill, I don't know, that's normal, isn't it?
No, he wants... Can you get him a breakfast tea?
Get a fresh tea.
I might like it. I don't
Okay.
I've never had it. It's about putting the best jockey on the horse. Doesn't mean the horse is always going to win. English coaches were lazy. We were the laziest coaches. I'm not putting myself in that, actually, but when I say lazy...
Apart from me.
What's it like being a player-manager?
What do you do about picking yourself as well? Do you?
Well, yeah,
He picked himself every week.
I can't turn it down. It might never, ever, ever come round again.
Welcome to Stick to Football, brought to you by SkyBet. This week we've got an England and Tottenham legend. Someone who managed me and Scholesy with England and Wrighty, was Roy's hero growing up and one of England's best ever midfield players, Glenn Hoddle. Obviously growing up, you were a lot of people's favourite player. Did you feel like, though, you were swimming against the tide in a game that at the time was very much... It was very direct. The coaching system was very long ball. The pitches were quite muddy. Did you feel as though you were swimming against the tide?
100%. 100%. I had to stick to my guns. I'm pretty, I was strong-minded even as a kid. Although I wasn't sort of mouthy or anything like that, I'd always sort of keep myself to myself as a player, normally until a bit older that happened. But no, I had to really fight against it, even as a youngster when I come through Tottenham and that, and standing up to... I remember standing up to Ron Henry, who in the 60s, the double team, hard as nails, left back. He used to coach us a little bit in the Tuesday and Thursday nights. And I remember he was doing, like, passing inside the right foot, inside the left foot, up, 15 yards away. And I got a bit bored, to be honest. I started playing with the outside of my left foot and the outside of my right foot. And he's come over and he's gone, Hoddle, he said, inside the foot. And I went, yeah, and I answered him back. And all the lads went, I was only 12. I said, yeah, but if I take it with the outside of my foot, I'm taking it earlier. And he looked at me and he clipped me around the head. And he went, inside the foot, you flash little git, wallop. And all the lads went, what are you doing? But that was me. If I felt I was right, then I'd say I'd have my...
You didn't change it then? You didn't...
No, that was the thing, Ian. It was about, I could have changed a lot. And I remember Stevie Perriman, actually, I was talking to that. Stevie Perriman called me, I was 17, 18, just got in the first team, and Stevie said to me, don't change. He said, because when Bill Nicholson, there was a spot in the team, Bill Nicholson, he was a very creative player, Stevie, when he was 15, 17, 16. He said, I was so creative, he said, but I changed for Bill Nicholson. There was a spot in the team, he said he wanted a hard, little tough little terrier in there, keep it simple, he said, Steve, don't give the ball away. He said, and I changed. And he saw something in me then and said, don't change. And I said, well, I don't feel as if I will change, but it was something that really stayed with me. And I thought, no, stick to your guns, because it was a different game then. The ball was in the air, as you say. It was, you know, people
flying
like...
in.
Yeah, they could kick lumps out of you.
But what would they expect you to change, Glenn?
Well, that's a good point, actually. I don't think I could have played any other way.
Right.
Yeah. But
when you're saying change, be a bit more defensive or played safe?
Maybe.
That type of...
I mean, I always had battles with Keith Birkinshaw. He was the manager I was under most. And Keith always wanted me in the box, get back in the box, you know. It was box to box back in then. Every midfield player had to do it wherever. And even though at Tottenham, I've got to say, even then, I only played... When Ricky Villa came, he played as a number 10 because he couldn't... He was worse than me at defending. He couldn't defend at all. So I ended up playing sort of a lopsided diamond on the right-hand side. I never really played until the last season at Tottenham as a number 10 behind Clive Allen, who scored 49 goals that year. But I played on the right-hand side, and it makes me laugh. People used to say, oh, he couldn't defend. And I was playing in front of Stevie Perriman, my skipper. And Stevie wouldn't let you get away with anything. And you know, he very rarely had to tell me that I weren't getting back or whatever. You know, I tried my best. It wasn't my natural game.
Right. No, but if you think of a Spurs player, you think of you, Glenn, don't you? What a Spurs player maybe looks like. Yeah, stylish, elegant, doesn't run back.
If he can help it. If he can get away with it. If he can get away with it.
The way you played, and like you said, you had to stick to your guns, but you did play differently. You could get on the ball. You would try and do something in the midfield, make space, left foot, right foot pass with backspin and everything like that. So who was the manager that said, no, you play like that?
Well, that's a good point, because I just play. That's always the way I was going to play. That was the sort of, not debate, but that I was never going to change, you know. And no one ever tried to change me, fortunately. But it was swimming against the tide of the system, really. That's what we're talking about. And there was other players, you know. There was Barnesy, you know, he was at Watford, wasn't he? John Barnes, wonderful player. My word, you know, they
surely Spurs accepted it. Was that more international football, or was that more... Did you have them challenges even at Spurs?
Oh, right. Not really at Tottenham to a degree, no, because it was the style of the club. Like you said, I felt as a kid, even when I went there as I was 12, it was like hand in glove. We went together as a club, the way they wanted the game played and the way I played it naturally. But no, it was more international football. We were so rigid. When I think back to how we played for England then, we were so 4-4-2. You know.
Where did you play in that 4-4-2 if you did play?
Wherever I could.
Yeah.
I was right wing most of the time.
Yeah, there will have
honestly
been that statement that I heard probably throughout, even to be fair, my early years of football. But what position is he? Where do you get him in?
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you feel justified now when you see the sort of development of the technical game in the Premier League and that actually you were ahead of your time? Because I actually have changed my way in which... Because at the time you played 3 at the back with England and the way in which we played, I was thinking... It was different for us because I was used to playing 4-4-2, so I was like getting my head around it. It was different, but I look back now and think, bloody hell, you were ahead of your time really in how you saw the game and how you viewed the game. Do you feel justified in that approach now?
Not justified, but I just felt that was what come natural to me, and I never thought I was going to get the England job ever. I didn't even think I was going to go into management actually when I was at Monaco, but. Getting it, I then said to myself, although I played 3 at the back at Swindon and I played it at Chelsea if I could, we didn't have the right players there really to do it, but I thought to myself, if ever I had that job, I've experienced chasing the ball forever against great teams. I've got 5 in me. Like every other English player. And then when we had the ball, we didn't have enough options. We were in straight lines, and I thought, if ever... I'm not standing for that. And that's really was the principle behind playing 3 at the back, was to have it offensively rather than defensively. We had to slip into a 4 sometimes. Yeah. Against Portugal, I remember, they played 1 down the middle. A lot of teams played 2 up then, so you could get away with a 3v2. Yeah. But when they played the 1 and the splitters, like a lot of people play now, I remember we had to play, and Scholesy won't probably remember it, but he had to play left side of a 4 when we defended, and then you'd go in off the front, and Graham Lasso would fill that space and go into a 3. So we did that back then, and I think we got a good result as well. So it was, but not justified, but it was just the way that I saw the game as a player and also as a manager, to get the best out of the team, and from the experience of running around trying to find space and on a 4-4-2 and then
Did you have a
outnumbering.
player that kind of not did your running, but kind of did that work for you to then be allowed to do kind of the creativity and whatever else? Because sometimes they try and make everyone be able to do everything, but I think if that's your strength...
Yeah, club-wise, I look back now, Stevie P played right back most of the time. But I don't know how that midfield worked at Tottenham. We had, our holding player was Ozzy Ardiles, who has come from winning the World Cup, who was magnificent on the ball. He was like a greyhound when he ran with the ball. He was our sort of deepest holding player. We had Tony Galvin, who was like a wide winger, play wide. I was this sort of lopsided diamond right that didn't want to be out there really. And then Ricky, or Mickey Hazard, would play in behind the front. And then 2 strikers. So we didn't have, I don't know how that works half the time. Perhaps that's why we didn't win as many games as we should have done. But, you know, it was...
You talk about rigidity and Scholes, I want to come on to him because, to be fair, even when we were at United, I said, you know, if I asked him who was his favourite England coach, he would say you every single time in terms of just getting the best out of him and actually accommodating him in a style of play. And then obviously he was pushed out with Sven to a very sort of rigid 4-4-2 on the left. Talk to us about that in terms of, obviously you'll have seen that at the time.
Frustrating because I knew what he would be going through actually, because I was done the same on the other side. I mean, Stevie Coppell was a fantastic winger.
Yes, right winger.
And Stevie was in the squad, and I'm playing, you know, there's games I'm playing out on the right. I'm going, he's a better winger than I'm not a winger. But I had to play. It's the England shirt, isn't it? You've got to play. It's you're proud of representing your country. I looked at Scholes being out there thinking, no, exactly, I've been down that road myself. And you have to get on with it. But you're never going to get the best out of someone if you know you're not playing in that position where you can really hurt the opponents. That's what it's about, putting your best players, I think, who can hurt the opposition in the right positions. It's not rocket science.
This episode of Stick to Football is brought to you by SkyBet. This show is sponsored by Huel. Back in my playing days at United and England, our meal plans were strict, but getting proper nutrition on the move wasn't always easy, especially when I was rushing home from training or travelling to a match. I wish I'd had something like Huel back then. Huel is a game changer. Take this Black Edition ready to drink. It's formulated by nutritionists to be the ultimate meal on the go. It's perfect if, like me, you're always short on time, but you want something better than unhealthy snacks or fast food. With Huel's Black Edition, you get 35 grams of protein, 26 essential vitamins and minerals, and over 170 health benefits, packed all into one bottle. And the best way to find out how well it works, try Huel's Taster Bundle. You'll get a range of their products like this and decide which one's best for you. My favourite is definitely the vanilla. So if you're an athlete, a professional, or just want a healthier option when you're on the move, give the Taster Bundle a go. Join the millions who love Huel and unlock your offer now at huel.com/theoverlap. That's huel.com/theoverlap. Who would you build around now out of those? Or if you look at that current group of players, you've got Bellingham, Palmer, Foden, say Sack. Who would you build around there, or how would you get them in? You know what? I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I've always rated Foden as the top player. And when I see him at 17, I thought he was going to be absolutely special, and I think he is special. Yeah. Hasn't played so well in the Euros. Hasn't done what I thought he would do, playing in a position. Sometimes not in the right position. Yeah. So I would stick with. I think Foden's a special talent. Whether he can reproduce what he's doing at City in an England shirt. But the kid Palmer looks unbelievable. Now, Palmer's an interesting one because if he stays unattached to the game and just plays like he's played, for me, he's like a player that plays in the playground. You remember? Play in the playground, there's no shape, give me the ball and I'll show you what I can do. He's like that. And if he doesn't change, I think he could elevate himself to being superstar and go probably ahead of Foden in many ways. But the question mark is, can he do that over the next coming seasons? We all know what's coming for him. The journey is going to be taken, and the ups and the downs, the injury he might get that we'll have to fight back again, a little bit of lack of form. Is outside the pitch influences? Will he get influenced that way? There's a multitude of things that he's got to come through to then become that star that I'm thinking he is. But talent, my word.
How many of them can you have in your team, Glenn? Do you think, like, I know it's great to sit there and go, you have a couple of them in your team, but ultimately managers under pressure to get results.
Yeah.
You can have 3 or 4 players who don't do the bit going back. It just won't happen. Even the Spanish team are brilliant, but they get back.
Yeah, look at I'll give you an example of what happened. The Brazilians couldn't win the World Cup for 20 odd years, could they? 20 years they went without, until they ended up putting Dunga and I can't remember.
Mauro Silva, was it?
Gilberto. Yeah, before that in America when they won.
Yeah, they had the 2 sat in front.
The 2 sitters, wouldn't they? And they were playing in Italy, actually. So they'd learnt their lessons how to play. They had to, even the great Brazilians tried to do it the way the 70s team did it, and the 82, which was unbelievable team. They couldn't do it. So there's the answer. You've got to have that balance. And sometimes, but it's lovely, isn't it, to say, well, I've got Foden on the bench coming on, or I've got Palmer to come on. So if I take him off, and you've got replicas. Yeah. Whereas most managers in England, you never had that choice. The depth of choice to actually say, I can take, if Scholes gets injured, who am I going to bring in? People say to me, one of the greatest players I've seen and what he's done in the Premier League is Letiz. Tiz was a genius, fantastic. People say to me, why did you not play him more than you did, Glenn? And I go, Paul Scholes. And they go, I said, Paul Scholes. I said, because Paul could play, I could only play Tiz in one position where Paul could play off the front, but Paul could be the second striker. If he needed to go into another little position for a defensive reason and then slide in off the front, it's clever enough to do. In the end, he can play pivot as well, like he did at the end of your career.
Yeah,
so not
so much then.
But
Did you play the 2 of them?
Is Paul? Well, no, because I had other balanced players in behind.
Bats as well, David Batty.
I'd Batty if I needed him. Beck's played in there at times.
Who would do that role now in this squad? Like, the holding role.
There's only one.
Declan Rice.
Yeah, Rice is the only one. And there's a little bit more than
that
I think
in him. We've had conversations before about him maybe going a bit further forward.
What about Angel Gomez, Gaffer?
Yeah.
Watching Angel Gomez playing there.
I don't know. I think he's a lovely footballer, but I'd like to see him against the top teams. The 2 games, no disrespect, that he's had, most of us could go, well, perhaps not you today, go in there and get that time. Certainly Scholesy could and go in there and go and play. It was like you've got to look at the opposition. I think he's a lovely little footballer. He really is, whether he's got that presence in there like Rice has got. But isn't it lovely to be talking about all the offensive players we've got?
Yeah, there's a lot of good players.
But we ain't got a holding player. It's normally the other way round,
So that's the same in the women's game.
Well,
it does still feel a bit messy, though, doesn't it, that England squad? If you know what I mean, with them players you talk about, the really talented players, you look at Saka and say, yeah, he plays on the right-hand side. Then you look at Palmer, you look at Foden.
I've mentioned Bellingham.
Well,
amazing. What talent
how do you get them all in?
coming out of there?
That's the problem, isn't
Phillips, look what happens to Phillips, isn't it? How he's lost off.
Yeah,
because
he was the one.
Declan and him were brilliant together.
They done okay,
so
yeah.
good, like the balance, and I think that's where sometimes you probably wouldn't perceive him to be the best midfielder, but you just have to find what works.
You don't think Rice is a sit midfielder, do you, Nev?
I just think
he's better going
to
forward.
be honest, I don't think he receiving the ball on the half turn. I think he's better off facing the game and just
running onto things.
Yeah, running onto things and sort of pressurising and sort of being higher. That's where Arsenal used him at the end of last season. I just think that position is so important now. Thinking about how you played it towards the end at United, how you played it, where you were really comfortable in setting up attacks, and most teams have that player.
I think he can do that, though.
Yeah,
I do. I really do.
I do.
Rice can do it.
I think Rice could do it. Yeah.
I think he can do it.
He could play in the City team doing it.
Yeah,
that makes a difference.
Yeah.
I think that single pivot
I think
is
it could,
so difficult, though. Single pivot is like just literally on your own. I think the technical ability, we spoke about it before, like you were amazing at it, like you could do it. I think with Rice, sometimes when he played with Phillips, it was a bit of a better balance. I think it's the most difficult position on the pitch, in my opinion.
I don't know, I sometimes
I
think it's
do,
quite simple. For an experienced player, I do. I found it quite easy, really. It's just about reading the game and being in the right position.
Sometimes having another one in there,
mate.
they look for the same ball.
Yeah.
Whenever I had 2 playing like that,
bit,
I wanted them together. Defensively, you work as a unit within a unit in there. But then when you get the ball, I don't want to put a net over you. If I throw a net up and I catch both of you there in the wrong position, you've got to be split and you've got to be playing off each other on angles. so that you can actually play through the pitch. You got the right players to do.
And Rodri's brilliant at it. Rodri's the best.
He's the best. Yeah,
yeah,
he
definitely.
is the best.
Glenn, we
Not
had
as good as you, Paul.
Then we had a debate, and there's a big debate going on at the moment around Thomas Tuchel and obviously English coaching. You obviously being one of the sort of most technically gifted English coaches we've had for probably 20, 30, 40 years. We don't seem to have that many now. Where are you at on the debate around English coaching, Thomas Tuchel being the manager?
One, I think Tuchel, I like him. I've spent a bit of time with him. I've had a few interviews, done interviews and on a tactical thing, and talked to him afterwards. I like him. I think, and what he did at Chelsea. I look at Chelsea. What happened to Chelsea when he left?
20 months.
To be honest,
Yeah.
you know, won the Champions League. He should have still been there now, and they'd be in a better state. I think Chelsea are back, by the way. I think they've got a good chance of getting themselves back there, but they've had they've gone missing, haven't they, to be fair. Yeah. And I think if he'd have stayed there, so I'm happy on the football front, delighted. I think, listen, I don't think even if Pep took over, it's about putting the best jockey on the horse. Doesn't mean the horse is always going to win. The World Cup's a hard trophy to win, isn't it, to be fair? But Tuchel's second best jockey, I think, around at the moment, that we could have, all the other rubbish, we're past that. We're down in the modern world, we're past that because he's German and whatever. If Klopp had been manager, no one would moan.
You're dead right.
But at the end of the day, I think the English, until we get if you look at all the top teams that are going to be in the Champions League, they're all owned by foreign owners who can't. They're not worried about England. They're worried about their club, so they're going to bring in foreign managers. Who's had an opportunity? I think Harry Redknapp had a bit of a spell, managing a Champions League side when Spurs were in there. Eddie Howe had one season last year.
Frank, maybe, when he got a chance at Chelsea.
Frank, yeah, a little bit.
Stephen as well at Villa.
But nothing sustained over a period of time. And until we get that, so even that one, I'm not worried about that, because at the end of the day, until they start changing and giving English, managers opportunities to do that at the top, then we'll be able to judge whether they're as good as Tuchel or as good as Pep or as good as anyone else out there that was going to be up for the job. At the moment, I love me cricket. We've got a New Zealander. Yeah. And we're all like, wow, what a team we got. Well, we had an Australian in the cricket team when we beat the rugby. Rugby. So at the end of the day, if we come back...
Are you worried about the lack of production of top English coaches just in this country and generally in Europe? I mean, in terms of our reputation?
Well, yeah, there's a concern. There is a concern, and I think it has changed. But I'm going to be brutally honest. Back in the day, and I think there's still maybe a hangover, English coaches were lazy. We were the laziest coaches. I'm not putting myself in that, actually, but when I say lazy...
Apart from me. You're too modest, Glenn, you're too modest.
What I meant was, not me personally, but the way that we had an approach, it was like, they're not good enough, hit it long, hit the front man.
Yeah.
They're lazy in the sense that they didn't want to work at actually getting the best out of a team, getting the best out of the technical players, having the balance right, of course, yeah. But that's what I meant, they're lazy. It was like, we're not good, let's just play this way. And it went right the way through all the managers. And I think we've still got a little bit of a hangover from that scenario. We've got lots of young kids, talented, as we say, and we hope we've got loads more coming through. Whilst I'm on that, I'm just going to say something which is a bit off the beat there, but we brought some lovely players through, technically players, and when we changed our academies years ago. And if you think Foden must have been about 8 years of age then when they changed, small-sided games, more touches of the football, all this generation of lads have come through. I go and watch my grandson 8 on a Saturday morning, under 8, under 9s, whatever it is. Some bright spark at the FA has changed from throw-ins or roll-ins to kick-ins. Now, it's unbelievable. I'm sitting there. They're all going from the halfway line, the smaller pitches. They're all running in, booting the ball in there to try and score a goal. And I'm saying all the work that they've done over the years, why are they doing this?
Yeah.
So there's no restriction on, you can actually just lump it long?
You can lump it long.
Wow.
You can actually, they can say you can dribble it onto the pitch if you want. You're going on...
What would you do?
I'd throw it.
But then they're going to have to learn to deal with it.
A little bit. I've got a piece, but
that would have been the end of Nev's career.
Imagine
I don't understand who's brought that rule in,
Yeah.
because it's only going to take us bloody backwards again.
Because they're going to have to deal with throw-ins at some point, aren't they?
Oh, and Jill, by the way, as well.
Yeah,
they can't head it as well at that.
Yeah,
at that age group, they're not allowed to head it.
Yeah.
So they're booting it in there, and as it comes in, they're going, just leaving.
But you swing against the tide as a player, but you must look back now and think you were swimming against the tide as a coach. Because at the time, it was, I think, just after maybe the Charles Hughes sort of, if you like, you were after that, but it was still the element of very direct, wide players.
Actually, he was still in office when I went.
Was he?
He had about 4 months, yeah. And
But when you was made England coach?
And there was some strange meetings we had, I must admit. He was trying to explain to me about Brazil, that Brazil was more than, three, they had efforts at goal with 3. And I said, well, show me.
In less than 3 passes, basically.
Less than 3 passes. Yeah. And I'm like, we had some battles. No way, So luckily he was leaving, to be honest. But no, that's how we were. Yeah.
Did it help you again going abroad? Did you learn a lot? Yeah.
I don't think I would have been even thinking of management, Roy, unless it was Arsène Wenger. I went and worked with Arsene at Monaco. And it was just it was mind-blowing, really, the difference of how they approach the game. And by the way, this is interesting, Gary. You asked the first question back there about against the tide. I sit with Arsene and he says, we want you to play number 10. Hallelujah. What? Yeah, number 10. And that's the most important position in the team. And I'm like, oh, OK, right. My first game, pre-season, we're playing Red Star Belgrade in a friendly. Arsene comes in at half-time. He says, Glenn, he says, you're running back too far. You're coming back too far. I was like, hallelujah. He said, I've got 2 players behind you to do that. He said, I want you to defend up there. And then I was like, wow. And it was just, the approach was different. The stuff that he was, all the things he brought to Arsenal, which you experienced as well.
His point to you, Glenn, was basically, we're going to focus on your strengths and not worry about the other few bits and pieces. Yeah.
And he says also, he straight away, and he was right. He said, look, the one thing that you're going to have to challenge yourself, which I wanted to do as a player. That's a part of going abroad, was to challenge yourself as a person off the pitch, but on the pitch as a player. He said, you're going to get man-marked. Have you ever been man-marked? And I go, no. In England, we're never man-marked. He said, well, that's the challenge you're going to have. And he was right. Yeah. And it was the first month, 2 months, it was hard. Somebody following you, kicking you, pulling your shirt, getting away. You had to change your game. You had to meet fire with fire a little bit more, and
living in Monaco must have been tough.
That's your
from
favourite
Tottenham
place.
to Monte Carlo.
That's his favourite place. That's all he speaks about.
I was sorry, Jill.
No, go on.
I was just saying about that number 10 role because, like you say, it's thought about different across Europe. In England, it wasn't thought like that, was it?
There wasn't.
Think of Letizia as an example.
Position.
He doesn't work hard enough.
Yeah.
But
and think
the talent to open it.
You had to maybe do it differently with in England. Maybe it's a striker comes in coming off like a Teddy.
Yeah.
And
it was a forward coming back, wasn't it?
Forward coming back. Yeah. You weren't picking a player of. And there's all sorts of number 10s, isn't there? Let's be fair. There's a number 10 that goes from there and gets in the box, like a David Platt back in the day type of thing, or a Dele Alli at his best. And then there's a Platini type of 10, and then there's there's different types of 10s, but we didn't have that position. It wasn't there.
But when someone wore the number 10, the perception is they go where they want, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was. So you do what you want,
I hated wearing 4 and 7.
I wouldn't suit you, Glenn.
I did when I first got in the first team. You just take the number that you get. I remember getting 4, and I was like, oh, 4. I'm not a 4.
It does make a difference, that, doesn't it?
It does.
And 8 means you're going to run.
To the perception as well.
Yeah.
Glenn, where did I've been watching a lot of your goals that you scored, very good ones.
Black and white, were they?
Great goals.
Well, you were playing for Tottenham, so it was a white top, but a lot from outside the box. Do you think we need to shoot more like nowadays? Because I think we're always trying to score these perfect goals, but I was watching a lot of your clips and so many strikes outside the box.
I honestly do, Jill. It's a good question because the balls are so different now. They're so lighter as well. And I don't know about you guys. I love my goalkeeping as well. I had 3 games in goal, actually. But goalkeepers, for some reason, from the edge of the box, you watch them, they're 2 yards off the line. They don't, Pat Jennings, you played with Pat as well. He would be on the 6-yard box from shots. He's not going to get chipped from there. Narrow the angle down. OK, these balls travel a bit quicker, but goalkeepers are so deep. There's so much more space in the goals. When you look up and you're going to hit one from 20-odd yards, Scalzi, you'd have a field day even more. But for me, they're not out attacking the ball. They're biding time a little bit. But by the time you bide time, they're moving a bit then anyway. So, yeah, I agree. I think
you know what, Gal? We'll be able to get
a lot more bodies maybe in
some clips. Finish the show. Can we get a clip of like the gaffer's he's real? Gaffer's highlight reel. It's like I've got to say, like Matt Letizier's highlight reel is amazing. The gaffer's got unbelievable highlight reel. I remember I was having that laugh about that fella.
The Watford one,
the chip at Watford. Yeah, but that's the one. What we was talking about when you scored, and then you was teasing that fella.
Didn't you score one like that though?
He did.
I got it off of the guy.
Southampton, wasn't it?
Yeah, got
Southampton.
it off. Yeah, got it off of him. Because but
Leeds away that no.
That Leeds away. It was Leeds. It was Leeds, but Gaffer was in but he was in the box.
His ball was heavier as well.
Yeah, it was heavier. But the thing is, he was in the box. He's going away from goal, and then he chipped it back, and then remember the celebration. Remember Steve Sherwood was giving you stick, wasn't he?
He used to join in training. Scholes was just saying before about when he used to do the passing practices and the skills practices. Yeah. And he said Michael Owen used to go out and we used to go out and be like, we're going to struggle. He used to do the demos.
People like Michael, they were frightened to death, honestly.
Were they?
I remember
Michael. Michael.
Did you do that one what the gaffer done where we had 4 people, so there's one here, one there, one there and one there. It was a warm-up gaffer.
You had to keep it up.
And you had to volley it over
15 yards over the head.
I
just put it there, didn't it?
I remember Steve Sherwood.
You know he was embarrassing you.
You know what? No, but the thing is, I remember in the times when we was in England squad, it really pulled people up on little things like one touch when it wasn't on, and doing stuff. You really did pull people up. And I remember that session. I remember I could physically see Sol Campbell bench Sol Campbell. But no, I'm not digging you out, Sol, so don't come for me. But it was tough. Those training sessions.
He used to every demo, didn't it? And
the gaffer's demos
was amazing. See people looking at each other. Well, fuck.
Jesus.
But I bet you loved it though, because you're a technical player.
It's about getting the best out of yourself. I mean,
and you train with us all the time, didn't you? Really?
I only went in actually. I went in if someone gets injured or someone goes off, in a club you get your reserve player over, don't you? Well, Johnny G always used to say, right, you go in. I mean, it's Johnny Gorman, assistant.
Yeah,
and a couple of times somebody went out, so I had to go. Because it's like, if you've got an 8v8...
And you was only 38 at that point, weren't you?
I was, yeah, only 38, 39. I'd only finished.
Did you go straight from being a player manager to an actual manager? With England,
Swindon was player manager.
Swindon, Chelsea, yeah. And then straight to England as a manager on its own?
No, I had 1 year, I brought Rude Hilly in that year at Chelsea. So I had 1 year not being a player manager, yeah.
What's it like being a player manager? Like, because you're with the lads, like whatever, then...
No, I can't do it.
I don't think we'll ever see it again, actually.
Impossible.
No? Did Kenny Dalglish do it for Liverpool?
Kenny did it.
Yeah, he won the double, didn't he?
Kenny did it.
Is it difficult being in the meetings with coaches and managers and hearing about, say, the lads, and you've got to go and play then?
It's impossible.
Do you know what I mean?
It's very, very difficult.
But you did about picking yourself as well, do you?
Well, yeah.
He picked himself every week.
Free
That was the easy bit.
Yeah, make sure I had the appearance bonus in the contract. No, the playing was an easy one, actually, because unless you're going to affect the game in a positive way, you can't take somebody else's place, and then the other teammates resent you for that. And if you're still going to affect the game, and I was playing sweeper at the time, I played at the back, so and I was still affecting the game. It was pretty obvious at Swindon at the time, so that was okay. Then never anyone going to Johnny Gorman or anyone saying like, "Come on, the gaffers."
What were they like with you on the pitch?
His boots out.
What were they like with you on the pitch?
I mean, I hobbled around for the 4 years.
What were the players like? Because obviously you're the manager, but you're playing.
That was.
Was there? What was the? Could you still say, "Oh, F off, Gaffer Jesus"?
Yeah. No, I did say that when I go over that white line. I said, "I'm just a player. You've got to take me as a player, and if I need a bollocking, I ain't going to hold that against you, because I'm giving you the option to do that." I think if you're a player manager, if you don't say anything like that, I think you're not going to get the best out of them. They're not going to feel natural. So players would and in meetings, if I've done something wrong, I'd say you got to dig us out.
Ferguson used to join in the boxes. Remember Ferguson when he was old, Glenn? Remember that day?
Yeah.
And I gave him a ball and he should have got it and he said, I had to go in the middle. I said, you shouldn't be in the boxes anyway. He went fucking mad. He made us all run around the pitches, remember? I was trying to be honest with him, you know what I mean? I know you were slightly more talented than me, yeah.
This episode of Stick to Football is brought to you by SkyBet. This episode of Stick to Football is in association with Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance by checking Allstate first. It's always smart to check first, and I've learned the hard way with this. The times I've not checked in with the weather before sitting in the gantry, commentating on an evening game on a cold night and wishing I'd brought my gilet. Or those times we celebrate a little too early and VAR pops up afterwards and you think, oh no. Checking first is smart, so check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary, terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois. Glenn, who was your influence then? Obviously, you said that you had to be stubborn growing up and basically steadfast in your approach, but who were your influences that actually informed what you were as a player? Who were the people that made you feel like you should play like you did?
That's a difficult one to answer.
Gaffer, do that story what you told me about Jimmy Greaves.
Oh, yeah, Jimmy Greaves, yeah. He came back for a testimonial. I mean, Greavesy was I was a Spurs fan at 8, so Jimmy Greaves was massive to the club and watching. But strangely enough, my two players, I had two other players that everyone loved George Best. Yeah. Bestie was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And there was something about him, obviously, that aura. He was like the fifth Beatle, wasn't he? Mm. But if I look at my game, and I always admired Bobby Charlton. So it was two Man United players. You know, Bobby Charlton was more of, I remember copying his body swerve, getting his body swerve going, and the influence of, and he was left foot and right foot and shot from distance. So looking at me as a player, I would say it was more than George Best. It wasn't like George Best, but he was the one everyone loved. Jimmy Greaves was amazing. I learnt something from Jimmy Greaves when he came back to play a testimonial for himself at Tottenham against West Ham. And unfortunately, I was only young, and I think I was just apprentice, just maybe a little bit out of the apprenticeship. Anyway, I was watching this game down in the gym. It must have been about 13 aside. There's hardly any space anywhere. But I was just watching Jimmy, and he hardly ever looked at where the ball was. He was for always looking over his shoulder. Where's the goal? Where am I related to the goal? Within about 10 minutes, he'd scored about 13 goals. It was only small goals. It was incredible. And I remember saying, I'm playing in midfield where it's 360 degrees. That's something I need to... I probably was doing it as a player, but it was so evident, and I kept saying, he's not even looking at where the ball is. And whenever he came, he knew exactly where his defender was, where the goals were, and he was amazing. So that was a big lesson for me, like, you know, playing in what I call 360 degrees, always not having, as that ball travelled in between distances, two players, you ain't got to look at the ball. It ain't going anywhere, is it? But that's the time you got to be looking.
But you must have had that your game as well, Glenn, when you were a player, obviously, and then you had brilliant strikers making runs for you, people like Clive Allen, and they must have known, like Jim, when they were making runs, it does help you if you think, I'll make the proper run.
It's coming.
You're going to pick him out.
Yeah. Not always, but yeah.
Most of the time, yeah.
But Archibald and Crooks.
Archibald, yeah, of course, yeah.
Those two were great. When they come, I love playing with them too. I mean...
Why, because they'd always run that way as well, you think, yeah.
And they knew when Archibald would come, wouldn't he?
And come off, yeah. And Archie would go in behind. That put us into another... That put that team to another level, actually. We had a solid... And Ray Clem come. The midfield, as I said, lovely footballers. How it worked defensively, I don't know. But then once
5-4, it didn't.
But then when Archibald and Crooks come, we had two really good finishers as well. They wanted to go in behind, so that really suited my game, you know.
You speak about them players being your heroes. Is there a player now that you watch play that you think played how you played? If there would be one player in the Premier League, maybe.
Ooh, that's a good question. I think passing-wise, I think De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne sees pictures quickly there. That was one of my assets. And one thing I did have as a kid, and I think this is, all of us would have this, is your imagination. No one can take your imagination away from you. You know, there's lots of things in life now, these kids and players, but they've got people making assumptions and criticism of this or whatever on social media. You can't take someone's imagination away.
Yeah.
And I had a really vivid imagination as a player, and I see some kids, that's what I like. I see De Bruyne and I think, you see in pictures. Ali's, you know, Trent is incredible passer of the ball. He is very, very special. Whether you think, oh, where can you play him or all that, but there's not a better passer in I'd nearly said world football. I don't see anyone that there where you really hurt a defence. You take a whole team out with one pass. Him and De Bruyne, I think, are fantastic. They really are.
Take us back to the England job, Glenn, and you first getting it, because you got it in unusual circumstances where it was given to you before actually Euro 96, and then obviously you actually came to visit in Euro 96 and then you picked it up after it. When did that first call come?
That weren't all good, was it?
It was, I don't remember. Yeah, because Terry, to be fair, didn't really want to give up the job, did he, at the time?
Not. No,
and obviously you came, he invited you in, or the FA said, come in.
Well, yeah. The FA would have...
Yeah, said come in.
Great idea for them, wasn't it? But, you know, I had to do it and thought, well...
So Terry knew before he was leaving?
So basically, before the tournament,
right,
I can't remember what happened with Terry in respect. It was Noel White, wasn't it? It was the
something happened.
The chief exec.
Yeah, something happened with... but we had a press conference together. I mean, he's preparing for...
I don't remember that.
We had a press conference together, sitting next to each other. Fortunately, Terry and I, you know, got on.
Yeah.
And he was my under-21 coach with Dave Sexton.
Right.
So we knew each other over the years. So it wasn't like, you know, I never met Terry before. But it was difficult. It wasn't easy. He had these plans to go for a tournament, and you know, and then I'm coming in after the tournament, and it wasn't the easiest sort of transition in many ways. But
how did it happen? When was the first call? When was the first approach?
Jimmy Armfield called me after a Chelsea game. I remember it. Got in the car. So they do tap people up. And, which played, I can't remember who we played. I was sitting in the car just about to go out of the bridge, and this phone call, Jimmy on the end of it, bless him. And he said, look, you're one of three. He said, I need to know whether you'd be interested. I've just come off the pitch. I thought, well, yeah, of course. And I went home and thought about it. Didn't have to think about the football side. It was really just young children. It was a family side and all that crap that comes with it, possibly, and had come with it with loads of other managers. Spent a day thinking about it, and I just thought, one, it's not a reason. All the crap's not a reason to turn the job down. You've loved football. It's been in your DNA since you were born. You can't turn it down. It might never, ever, ever come round again. How can I turn it down? Was I too young? No, not on the football front. No way. But on the other side, yeah, probably I'd like 10 more years of experience in all the rubbish that goes with it, and I'd have done it differently. I was, you know, I didn't like press conferences. I didn't really. I should.
They were brutal back then as well, weren't they?
Sorry?
They were brutal back then as well.
Brutal, yeah. So there was straight away. You walk in there and there's a wall.
Yeah,
there's a wall there. It's an invisible wall, but it's, you know it's there. Perhaps I should have been a bit fake and tried to do something a bit different and studied and gone down that a bit Jose-ish, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd have been all right if 10 years later it would have happened. But I wasn't. I was
How
young,
old were you,
stubborn.
How
I was
old?
39.
Oh, wow.
So I was still sort of had a player's head on, really, in many ways. But it was like, yeah, I didn't really, in going in there, I didn't really embrace them and sort of change my ways that I perhaps should have done or could have done if I had the experience. So that side, I was always a little bit questioning.
So you didn't get, like, Terry Venables didn't say to give you any kind of, like, tips on what might happen, or...? No, because we were going into the Euros, and I didn't ask because I felt...
He was getting killed as well, wasn't he, going to the Euros?
Yeah. No, it was like, I put myself in his shoes and thought, you know what, it's the last thing you want, isn't it? Is somebody who's coming in and having that conversation or whatever. So it was literally meet the lads very quickly at a lunch, and that was it. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't anything big.
We were in Rome about 5-6 weeks ago, and obviously that was the night that Wright
Missed that chance.
He was trying to be nice.
It was a special night, wasn't it? Just take us back there. Obviously, Wrighty took us through it from his perspective because he was on the pitch and he was talking about that chance, and then they went up the other end, didn't they? And
that game was, there's been a few games emotional, but that was an incredible moment in Wrighty going up that end, hitting the post. Then it comes out to Teddy, if you remember, on the edge of the box. Yeah. We're thinking Teddy's going to smack it in, and he chops it back there. Anyway, and then they come. I'll never forget. I'm on the bench here, right, and we're like that. We only needed the point, but that would have got us. They're now attacking down the left. So they're coming right in front of us on the bench. They go down the other end, Ian, don't they? Remember?
I was on my knees.
The cross goes in, and the big centre forward,
Vieri.
Now, when you're looking at a goal from that way, you can't see it. So he gets the header.
Yeah, and you're just waiting.
If I'm behind it, I can see it's going wide. Right. But it's going, and I can see David Seaman just stopped. He just stood there. And this is where the serious bit comes. This ball, I'm thinking it's hitting Nestling in the top corner. It flies by the net and goes out. And I've got to be honest, there's pictures of me. My heart, you know they say your heart jumps out your body? It literally did. It went boom, right? I came out in the biggest sweat ever. If you look at my tracksuit, I'm drenched. My hair is soaking. Literally, and for this day, that was the moment where I think I had a heart problem. And I didn't know anything about it. And then they found out that I had AF, which is atrial fibrillation. Yeah. And I think it stemmed from that moment.
Jeez.
So you
attempted murder.
If only you'd scored.
For the gaffer.
God's honest.
Manslaughter,
Teddy,
actually.
no, if anything, we should blame Teddy because, like...
Teddy.
Where's Ted?
Honest to God, boom, it went out. And I remember going down the tunnel, because we're all elated we were going to the World Cup, and thinking to myself, do I say something to the doctor?
Wow.
And to be honest, I just went, shit. As you do. Jesus. Come on, we're celebrating. we're going to the World Cup. So it was looking back, I think that was the lead into my fibrillation and maybe whatever happened to me 6 years ago. So yeah, it is stressful, isn't it? That technical bench.
This episode of Stick to Football is brought to you by SkyBet. There are more than 30,000 out-of-hospital cardiac arrests in the UK every single year. Fewer than 1 in 10 survive. 45% of football fans wouldn't be confident in giving CPR. So far, the partnership between SkyBet and the British Heart Foundation has got over 100,000 people starting to learn through Reviver. If you could please learn CPR, it really could save a life.
Glenn, that day 6 years ago, you know, when it happened, when you woke up or in that week, was there anything different? Or was it literally just like a normal day?
Jill, that's what's so scary for all of us in this room now. I felt, I think back probably for maybe 3 or 4 months, all I felt was a bit fatigued. I'd get in the car if we were doing a match or whatever at 12 o'clock and I'd go, Jono, who used to drive me about, Jono, I'm going to have a snooze. That's the only thing I can remember. In the middle of the day, that wouldn't be normally me. But, so that's the only thing. I go on television, I'm doing a show and bang. So that's what's so frightening. We don't know what's going on inside. You know, we look after our cars. We have our cars MOT'd more than we actually look after our bodies. So it was such a shock to me. It really was. And I'm very, very lucky. Just so lucky that Simon Daniels was there to do CPR. It's so important, you know.
Yeah.
And I wake up in the hospital thinking,
what's happening?
What am I doing here?
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. I can't remember anything. So, yeah, very lucky. And so every to be honest, I call it my extra time. This is my extra time. Just so we don't go to penalties.
Was it Simon, Glenn?
Simon Daniels.
Yeah, we've got
7 ribs you've ever broken.
We've got a little video here.
That's it. Oh,
How are your ribs?
yeah, 7 ribs you broke.
Oh, wow.
What, getting you going, Gaffer?
Yeah, when you do the CPR, you have to be that deep.
What do you remember the start of the episode? Because you weren't supposed to work that day, were you? And it was your birthday.
It was my birthday as well.
So you were going to have
What a gift that man gave me, huh?
with your family.
What a gift.
What birthday gift?
He's given me my life. I mean, sometimes it's just that your fate that it's not your time to go, and I was very, very lucky, but all them things were aligned. I wasn't due to go in. I was going to have a little birthday cake with my grandchildren.
And Robbie gave you a birthday cake
He
on
did
the
actually,
programme.
yeah, he did, yeah.
And your head hit the studio concrete floor, and you collapsed. You were out cold. I ran over, and immediately could tell that you were seriously unwell. And then I realised you were having a cardiac arrest, and I rolled you onto your back, and then I started doing CPR.
We don't know. We just don't know with a cardiac arrest when or if it's round the corner. And it doesn't give you a little tap on the shoulder. It's one of those things that just happens like that. And thank God you were there to save me.
I just went into autopilot, and I identified that you'd stopped breathing, you'd got no pulse. I called for someone to go and get the defibrillator, phone the ambulance service, and then I just started doing CPR, and I kept doing the CPR until the defibrillator turned up in the studio, which was only a couple of minutes, and I continued doing CPR until the first paramedics turned up.
The greatest 7 ribs you've ever broken in your life. We have a laugh about it.
How are your ribs?
Yeah, I mean, it was 7 ribs you broke, which was great, actually. On my birthday as well, you couldn't have given anyone a better gift. Thank God you did.
Just give me goosebumps.
What was Simon's job at BT, Glenn?
Sorry.
What was his job at BT, Simon?
He was sound engineer. Yeah, and as I said there, alluded to, guys, it's just, it was just, I wasn't meant to go because he could have gone and took a phone call. He didn't. He actually went back into the studio, and then saw all the commotion and just. Because he was a volunteer policeman, so he knew how to do CPR.
Right.
And by all accounts, when I met him after I had the operations and everything, it was only a week before that he hadn't done it for a long time, and they had a refresher course. Yeah. And it was only a week where he was straight in and done it.
It's really strange, Gaffel, because when you say it, when you think of all the things that could have happened where you could have been on your own or whatever, everything happened for you not to be like that.
Yeah.
That's got to really, solidify your faith.
Absolutely. The big one for me was I was meant to be at home, and it was only I normally would go, my kids are coming round, they're going to celebrate my birthday on the Saturday. I'd have gone, Terry, I'll tell them I can't do it. Because it was a late shout on the Friday, I think. And I said, leave it with me, phone Zoe, can you change it to the Friday? So they came on the Friday. So we swapped the days over and went back, said, yeah, I can do it. And as I said there, that would have been a nightmare if I'd have been doing it. So all them things, not only not being on my own, but God, dear. And that's life, isn't it?
How long was he doing CPR for on you?
20 minutes, I think. Over 20 minutes.
Wow.
Christ.
And to be honest, by all accounts, I can't remember a thing, but they took me, because I hit my head so hard, they took me to St Thomas's to have a scan on my head. They thought my head might have been the problem, and they found there was nothing in there, Roy. So, so they then took me to St Bart's. I thought I'd say it before he got in.
You're one step ahead, even in here.
It was, and obviously to the family and everything, it was horrendous for them. But I didn't know anything. They had all the trauma in many ways, but it was.
And how do you feel now? Is everything all fine?
I had a check-up yesterday, funny enough. Yeah, just every now and again I've got to have a check. And I got a defibrillator in here. That was funny because I said to the fella, I didn't really want it. He said, you can have it. And I did it for my children, really, and the family. So my first question was, I love my golf. Where would you suggest I put it? He said, put it there, don't put it here. So I went, stick it in there then. So I actually lengthened me off the tee.
Did you get
Yes,
got more?
it's helping me.
Nice, okay. I think I won't go that road though. You know what? It's really strange because you can imagine hearing the news from someone like Paul Ince. Because with Paul, it's as soon as he gets on the phone, it's all and so it started. So he got on the phone. I said, "Hey, Gav," he said, "Shut your fucking mouth. Gav's had a heart attack." Bam.
Is that what he said?
To the word.
Right.
Shut your mouth. Gav's had a heart attack. Jeez, what's up, ya?
What's up,
Bam. And then you know what I mean. Then you're just starting to try to find out what's going on. But it went round so quickly.
Well, that was the thing. It was talk about keeping it quiet from the media. I was in BT studio, so it was obviously out. But hey, listen, those things, guys. My perspective on life has always been quite different, anyway. But even more so now, take every second as if you knew it was going to be your last. What would you do with it?
Yeah.
that's we've been so lucky to be in football, all of us, and do the careers that we get. But life's life. That's the most precious thing.
We did the CPR actual training last year, and actually a couple of things. One was where you actually have to press was, to be fair, something that I wasn't aware of, but also the amount of actual pressure. You talked about the ribs that you have to put on, and you don't stop. You know,
Keep going.
Keep going and don't stop.
That's what Simon said to me, because I spoke to him, because I didn't know about it beforehand, and he said that. He said, look, you're going to pass. If it happens, they're going to pass. So you just keep going and you go as hard as you can. If you break a few ribs, so what? You know? And because after 3 minutes, you're going to lose 10% of your life. And so you're just going to go. So just go for it. Whoever, even if you not trained, go for it as hard as you can and try and get it. And that press there.
This episode of Stick to Football is brought to you by SkyBet. Can we just go back to the England job? We get to the World Cup, Glenn, and I know when I look back now, obviously I think you've said this since, when you had to whittle the squad down from 20...
I don't know what it was.
9 to 22 or whatever it was. And obviously, there's no doubt everybody had tried to do different ways, and I don't think anybody ever found the perfect way to whittle a squad down. There's no easy way. I think Terry, to be fair, I remember in '96, went round and knocked on people's doors, and one of those was Peter Beardsley, there was others, and actually those players then had to travel home with us.
The dreaded knock.
Yeah, the dreaded knock. And, you know, it was basically Brian came and saw the players that were in, and Terry went and saw the players that weren't in, but the players that weren't in, then we didn't know who they were, so we found out actually when we got downstairs, and we had to travel back from, I think it was Hong Kong, back to England, knowing that those players weren't there. You tried to do it in a different way, which I think was, no doubt, had good intentions. Can you just take us through that in terms of, you know, I mean, it obviously went badly wrong in the sense of, obviously, with Gaza and everything. Just take us through it from your perspective.
The Gaza one wasn't... that wasn't... I'll come on to the Gaza one, but I just felt... I certainly wouldn't do it by text, which has been done in the past.
Yeah.
But I just felt if I was a player, how would I want it? I needed to be one-on-one with people. I needed to tell them that they weren't going to be, and sometimes the reason why, you know, it's to give them as much info, and that's the only reason why I got them to come to my room, and I just had an individual chat with them. Yeah. It was a tough thing to do, obviously, very tough, because you know you're breaking people's, you know, mentally it's very tough for them to overcome that. But no, Gaza's one. Gaza didn't smash my room up at all.
He smashed his own room up, didn't he, I think, when he got back to it, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Were you rooming with him?
No, he was next door. Yeah, he was next door.
No, he punched the door as he walked out my door, and he must have broke his wrist, bless him, because there's a great big hole in the door. But no, it was Gaza. I've been asked about Gaza. Gaza. The only reason I didn't take Gaza was his injuries. He had, if you remember, he played against Morocco, our last game. And I said to Gaza, you know what Gaza's like? I said, Gaza, you ain't got to prove it. I need you to get 90 minutes under your belt. Because he had a calf and a knee problem that he was tinkering with quite a long time through the season. And I'm thinking, Gaza, you've got to get yourself fit. I mean, the problem was he was up at Middlesbrough and he was sharing a room with Merce. Having a house with Merce. I mean, you know, when you're an England manager, you're not looking after them. You're only leasing the car, really. They're coming to you and then going back. But I kept saying to him, you've got to be fit for the World Cup, Gaza. So we left it to the last game, and I can see it now. The big Moroccan 6 comes across, and Gaza's on a run, and I'm saying, release it, release it. Takes him out, and he gets a hematoma there. And I remember a lot of my decision had to be from the physios, because I'm saying, how long? We knew he had the thing, we could probably nurse him through that. And they went, it's going to be 3 weeks at least with that. Jesus. And in the end, it was like, do I, don't I?
So he'd have been available maybe after the group games or?
Probably quite into the, well down, into the tournament. Thinking of Gaza not playing for 3 weeks and 4 weeks around the joint as well, it would have been difficult for him, as well as it would unbalance the squad as well. So all them things had to go into consideration, and it really was a 50-50 sort of shall I, shan't I? And I think looking back at some of the World Cups where people have taken players that have been injured, it hasn't worked, has it?
No.
And I just had to make that call because he'd done great in every qualifying game. He was brilliant, you know, and I wanted him there and his experience. But I just looked at him and thought, I don't know, in the end a gut feeling that you weren't going to be fit until maybe semi-final.
Did you expect the fallout that came from it from a media perspective?
Yeah,
at that time.
I knew that. I knew the perception. You know, the story that we were, the truth, telling them the truth, wasn't going to be. You know, wasn't going to be what they were going to say. So the perception of it was like. He smashed my room up when obviously it was somebody in his own room. So all them things came out and it was, well, I expected that. Yeah. I expected that, but that weren't a reason just to take him. And I'll be honest now, I'll be candid. I saw David Beckham and Scholesy suddenly. I know they love Gaza as players, but I saw them when we went away for 4 days. I think we had a little break, and then we come back.
Yeah.
And as a group, and I see a difference in them.
I think it definitely gave it a bit of confidence. Yeah.
We all went.
Gaza was the best, wasn't he?
They went. Hang on a minute, Gaffer must, he must feel happy if he's not taking Gaza, and I see them change a little bit for the better.
Do you know what I remember from that trip? Do you remember we had to choose a song, didn't we, for a playlist?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
No, because I'm
So you're going to talk about tactics scores.
I did, yeah, I remember.
We had to choose a song for a playlist. Nicky Butt chose With or Without You.
Oh,
You got left out.
Was it you too? With or Without You? Jesus. Left him out. That was a tough one.
We had
He's on the plane on the way home.
We had a Euros selection in La Manga, and you know when you're in the apartments for the training camp, and basically they just rang up one apartment and just eliminated them.
Wow.
4 or 5 who was in there.
Oh, God.
And then we flew out the next day. So the whole training camp, we were like, well, you blatantly knew who wasn't going. And they were like, no, it was just chance. The 5 people in the one apartment.
Wow.
So it was only one phone call.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then we went to the tournament the next day. So that was pretty brutal.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's no easy way.
There's no easy way, though, is there?
I mean, someone texted, didn't they?
I think it was...
Was it your groups, but after? I can't remember who it was.
Sven didn't do it face to face. He did it by phone, maybe. I think Capello did it maybe by text.
Someone did it by text.
Yeah.
I was like,
We got an email once, I remember, for one tournament.
Yeah.
You were just refreshing your inbox. So you got this email.
there isn't an easy way. It's not a perfect way, is it?
You probably found out by pigeon.
That I was never left out, just.
There he is.
What were the things when you said before that you found hard about this? So the football side, you said you were ready, but what things did you think that you sort of looked at and thought, you know, if I'd been 10 years older, I would have probably sort of handled that differently?
No, I think it would have been the overall of the approaching of that's what I mean, the approaching of the journalists. I needed to put a different head on when I look back, and I probably 10 years later would have known about that.
Yeah.
And probably, I was still young. I was very young still as a player. I had a player's head on, so it was them and us. That's what I meant.
You'd only managed for a year, though, hadn't you? Fully managed for a year.
Yeah, I've been in management, obviously, with that. But it was like, there was just this wall there. And I was true to myself, probably stupidly, and probably should have gone down that, Jose way, acted.
Would you have appointed someone maybe as well in your staff to maybe manage it more, or?
Gary, I even to this day now, that's one thing I said about the job afterwards. All these stuff that the England manager has to put up, and they're still not doing it right. There should be someone else there from the FA that deals with anything that's not football related.
Yeah.
Gareth had to answer all questions about all sorts of different things. No, sorry, it's not a football question. I'll deal with that after.
Yeah.
And someone should be there, not one of your staff.
Yeah.
But and once they know that it is that, there's the line drawn. Oh, so-and-so's injured, or why did you not pick Mascara? That's Tuchel now, or the manager.
Yeah.
Whereas they need somebody there, I think, coming out of that job afterwards. That's where you certainly back there you were left on your own.
Yeah.
You felt isolated too many times.
Oh, they've done that with Carsley even the other day with the Republic of Ireland.
As a player and a coach, I think, back then, I think you felt isolated.
Yeah, definitely.
You're right about that wall, because when you walked into a press conference and those, I'll call them giant journalists, those sort of, if you like, those heavyweights.
Right at the front.
They were right at the front. It was intimidating, you know what I mean? They were after you. It felt like it was a sort of an intimidating atmosphere, and worse for you, obviously, as coach, because as players...
You just felt as if you just needed to say one thing slightly off, and they'd jump on it, and they were waiting for that. The worst time was if you're not playing until the week, you're there and you know they've got a field of they've got to fill the paper. Back then, see, the papers are not important anymore, right? It's all them out instantly. But back then, it was like, what are they going to say Monday, Tuesday? They need
how
stories.
you fill in the papers,
There's nothing else to be said. No, so-and-so's not fit. And so that's boring, isn't it, in the end for them? So you know that they were waiting for some sort of morsel of a story. So that was always the, maybe I, looking back, I should have maybe done it differently.
Will England win a World Cup or a Euros in our lifetimes?
Ooh, so I think we've got a bunch of players that are capable. Yeah, with what I see in the Euros now and what I see in world football, I don't think we're a million miles off it. I do think we've got a coach now that could actually get us over the line. As I said before, I think it doesn't guarantee us. Even if you had Pep, who's the best, doesn't guarantee us. In world football now, you can come unstuck against, in a knockout scenario. You're giving yourself the best opportunity, and I think we're close to giving ourselves a good opportunity. So that the horse doesn't mean it's going to win every time, but you've got the best trainer, the best jockey, best facilities there. Go and see if you can win the Arc de Triomphe or the big race, and that's the big one.
Do you think we could have had a chance?
Yes.
If you'd have stayed?
I do, especially the way that... in the tournament, I felt, if we'd have... to go down 10 men and do what we did against Argentina, if we knocked them out, I think the belief in our camp and the fear that we would have put into the other teams, I think was big as well. That would have been big. I think we had a lot of good players there. I look back and think, wow, we had just as good a team as I've seen there for a long, long time.
There was some experience in that team, right?
Yeah. Young good players and
mixed with
experience.
some good young players. Well, Michael, Sol Campbell.
Well,
but still, you're playing against squads that were brilliant as well.
Exactly.
You think of your French squads and your Brazil squads.
We still had
Argentina weren't bad as well.
Some very good opposition. But we would have been in a situation there, I think, where we'd won the tournoi, don't forget, the year before.
People keep forgetting that.
Brazil. Brady keeps bringing that
scored,
one up.
No, and I think people with...
I set you up and you set me up.
Yeah, I think we did that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, fantastic ball to you. You could never miss it.
I couldn't have missed.
Them ball.
That's what I see. No, but Gaff, I see
on your left foot or your right foot, sunny side up.
No, but I see the chance. People
He just went bosh.
People don't talk about the actual finish. They just say, "What? Scholesy's past here. Couldn't miss." Peruzzi.
Nah, it was a
well done, Wrighty.
Glenn, final question on the club you grew up supporting, Spurs. Why have Spurs not won more in the 40, 50, 60 years? Obviously, it's a question that ultimately a lot of people who are associated with the club get asked, but you've been manager there, you played there, you're a club legend. What do you feel is the reason why such a great club hasn't achieved what it should?
Very good question, of which I'm not going to be able to answer it 100%. But I think there is a tradition in that club, winning the double back in the 60s, and the way they played. Even before that, there was a push and run team that was put together, and I think that there's a split in the generations at the moment. There's still got the older generation that are living in them memories, and they want a certain style of play, and it's always been that way. If you didn't play attractive, attacking football, and let's face it, I think a lot of big clubs have that as well, but they've got a lot of players, and you see through the history, that players that you'd go and watch, players that would get you off your seat, players that, if they don't win, but I've gone and watched the best Jimmy Greaves or whoever. So you've got that type of style, and there's a generation that have lived through that, and they're going, well, we're happy with that. You've got a younger generation now that haven't seen us win anything for a long, long time. So there's a split in the camp, if you like. They want to go to school or college or university or their job, saying, we've won trophies. Arsenal and Chelsea in London have won them. We've had to be sitting here. So there's a split in the crowd. So I'm hoping that's going to help us in a way, because I think the demands have got to be more that you are successful as a club, and that means winning trophies. Can I put my finger on whatever? I don't know. To do is to dare is the club motto. Perhaps that's not really what it should be.
They don't live to it.
To do is to dare. What does that mean? It's it's not like it doesn't tell me that you're saying we've got to control and win trophies and we've got to be the very best, or it's something there in I do believe that I think the the club have lost their way a little bit on football side. I think everyone talks about the stadium and the training ground. They don't win trophies. Stadiums, I've never seen a stadium win a trophy. Have you? But, it's going to be an old stadium by the time we keep talking about us winning.
But if they want something, Glenn, playing like a brand of football that's not really the Spurs way, you're thinking the modern fan should be okay with that.
Well, they've tried that though, haven't they?
Yeah, they've tried it. Yeah, but
they've got Conte in. So
but they didn't win anything.
No, no.
But I'm saying if they brought them in and won something, would they be fine with that? You're saying?
I think there's a massive mistake that Daniel Levy made. Jose gets them to a cup final. Beat a League Cup final. That was the first he won at Chelsea.
Yeah.
That's a stepping stone.
He sacked him.
He sacked him on the Monday. Now, that don't make sense to me. And it never will.
No.
So I don't understand that at all. You bring somebody in to win a trophy, and he's got a good record against Pep as well, albeit against Man City. Yeah. And then put a young, young coach in that's not had any experience. I mean, that just, whoa.
Yeah, but would he be thinking if Spurs had won at that time, that Mourinho then would have a bit more power, he's got a trophy under his belt, or even though the style of football wasn't what they wanted?
Yeah, but that's... He brought him in for a trophy. Yeah. You don't give him, holding him the sweets then, and take it away. You're not having them sweets. Yeah. That's what they wanted, and it would have been a stepping stone. Right. And who knows, if he'd have stayed, there might have been another trophy. And then there's a... Yeah. But I don't think the attitude has been the football comes first. Mm. He would have sacked himself, wouldn't he? Let's be fair, after 6 years. If he was looking at himself and he's won one trophy. Yeah. He's done a fantastic job, don't get me wrong. Daniel's done a brilliant job with the stadium, running of the business. Unbelievable. But is it to the detriment of, is it the best teams that we can really actually get and, go and get the best players? Everyone wants to play in that stadium. Mm. There's a lot of good things about Tottenham to go as a player, to go and join Spurs. But is
there a weakness at the club or whatever about the business side of it? No, we have a chat here and we criticise him that Spursy tag. Yeah, it's hard to shake off, isn't it? Yeah. When they lose certain cup games, I know it's hard to win league titles, in Europe. Mm. But you're looking at league cups and teams who've knocked Spurs over the last few years going, oh yeah, really? Yeah. Mm.
No, but I see that I don't understand because they've played less.
Ian's very upset with this chat.
Yeah, I'm betting. Yeah.
No, I'm not a gaffer. I'm just saying, I totally understand. I can see what Roy's saying. I'm saying, yeah.
No, but play your best teams. I mean, I saw the team you put out last year against Fulham, and I'm like, no, they just went to Arsenal and drew, and we get beat there. Mm. But in a way, for Spurs. And this is just for us to win something. Now, as I said, Mourinho won his first trophy at Chelsea, was a League Cup. League Cup and FA Cup is a stepping stone. Yeah. It's massive. Yeah. You know what it's like. Yeah. You win something, you go again. You believe you're going to win it. You've broke the back of it. Yeah. You've gone over that line and you go, hey, you know what? We're going to do it again next year.
Saying that Arsenal won the cup 5 years ago and they've not really kicked on. And it can go the other way as well.
Spurs.
But then, I knew that Roy was going to say that. But, I just hope that United can just get it right. I know they've won a couple of cups.
We've not mentioned United today,
Yes, you got your way, Righty. You always get your way, Righty. You always get your way.
He said you started the show with Arsenal because, you know what I mean?
No,
that's how vindictive and nasty his mind is.
Spurs need a new motto. Football's a doddle if you have Glenn Hoddle.
And on that note, what an amazing show. Brilliant.
Thanks,
Glenn, thank you so much. Well done. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you.
No.
Thanks a lot.
Scholesy.
When do we start filming then?
Done.